Thank you for coming to my talk, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jiyoung Seo, the Senior Manager of the National Information Society Agency, and I'm in charge of MyData Ecosystem project. Today, I'd like to introduce the public MyData ecosystem in Korea. This project was a part of Digital Government Innovation Initiative in 2019. And this project is very meaningful in strengthening the people's data right and providing better service. Then I will briefly introduce you what we've done to apply the concept of MyData to the public sector in Korea. As I said, the objectives of this lecture is to introduce what Korean government has done and the perspective on business, law and policy, technology, and society. This is the structure. First, the overview of Korea's public MyData ecosystem. MyData is a human-centric approach to personal data management. It is definitely different concept with big data or open data. Before building MyData system, people who want to apply for the public service had to submit required certificates to prove their qualifications for the service. To get the certificates, people have to visit several ministries and agencies which manage their personal data. In this process, people had to depend on the data providers. Even people don't know exactly what kind of data providers have and how they control their data. But now, under the request from people, data providers send the data to the individual or service provider via MyData ecosystem. It means people have the right to manage their data by themselves. It also means that the paradigm of providing public service has shifted. As I said, our goal is to put citizens in control of their government-held personal data and gain trust from them with better security and reliable operations. And now I will tell you what NIA and Ministry of Interior and Safety have done to establish the ecosystem. First, due to the limited budget, we had to figure out what certificates and public services would be effective and efficient if we provide them via MyData system. So we conducted the demand survey and analyzed the impact. In the case of this year, we received more than 200 demands from ministries and agencies which they want to change their service to MyData. And we will select only 15 initial services to develop. From 2020, we've linked and issued 140 public certificates from various data providers such as healthcare, tax, and military service, and so on. Using those certificates, people can apply 35 personalized dataset services without documents. To make it happen, we had to establish the legal basis and decide to enact Article 43 in Electronic Government Act and Article 10 in Civil Petition Treatment Act. The reason why we enacted two acts is to set the range of service providers who can receive data from people. At first, we only consider public agencies as the service provider, but after conducting demand survey, we figure out that people want to use their data to private sector as well. So we needed to amend the Electronic Government Act for private sector, as Civil Petition Treatment Act only deal with the civil service. If you send the data to public agencies, it is provided under the Civil Petition Treatment Act. And according to the Electronic Government Act, people can request data provider to send their data only to private sector like bank. To provide detailed guideline to providers, we published regulations book for the public sector personal data sharing ecosystem. This guideline introduced the roles, responsibility, and procedures of the provider in detail. In addition, we provide the templates necessary for service use, such as application and cancellation, to help service providers use our system conveniently. Now I will introduce our ecosystem. People can send their MyData through API platform or portal to make people easily access service anywhere, anytime. Through the API platform, people can provide MyData at the same time as applying for a service. In this case, the service provider has the right to request and receive MyData under the consent of the individual. Via the portal, an individual directly selects the necessary MyData in 140 certificates and sends it to the person or the service provider. In the case of API platform, the service provider brings various certificates from different data providers. As errors or delays may occur depending on system performance of the data providers, we developed the technology to break certificates down into smaller units of data to make the amount of the transmission as much as write. Using this technology, we create new data set which is contained only necessary data for service. Last, the data set is automatically stored into the service provider's system. And then, provider call the data set when they need to do business, like qualification screening. Using these technologies, service provider could reduce human error and prevent personal information by not receiving the certificates by themselves. So we provide 16 APIs and software development kit to service providers, and we open the Technical Supporting Center for technical support and training session for providers. To promote our service, we published a detailed manual to help people understand and use our system easily. In addition, we've held various events and training programs for service providers to improve awareness and strengthen cooperation with service providers. Last but not least, I'd like to share what we've achieved after starting our service. After opening the pilot services in February 2021, the monthly data request was increased 5,000%, and the amount of issued certificates was increased around 7,000%. These figures exceed the previous expectations and are still showing explosive growth. I saw the value and potential of services through these results, and we plan to expand services. Going forward, we plan to continuously expand services and the private sector to education, telecommunication. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope this lecture could contribute to the development of digital government in your country.